Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to start a nonfiction November reading vlog. I have 3 books that I'm hoping to read. I want to go over them so you know what to expect in this reading vlog. The first one I'll probably pick up is The Man No One Believed, The Untold Story of the Georgia Church Murders. This one is by Joshua Sharpe, and I picked it up from Book of the Month when it was a pick. And I kind of forgot about this one, but I had it on my fall TBR, so I was like, I need to include it in November. And then I have The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, a life-changing tool that millions of people can't stop talking about. Yeah, this I'm expecting to see on the Goodreads Choice Awards, but I'm excited to see what I get out of the book. And Jessie from Reading with Jess is also going to be reading this one this month, so we're kind of doing a buddy read. And then for my Night Owl Book Club, which is a part of my Patreon, we are going to be reading A Walk in the Woods, Rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail by Bill Bryson. This is a very popular nonfiction. It's one I've been meaning to read for years, and also we are going to be watching the movie as part of our enrichment activity for the month. So I'm really excited to get to all of these. I have high hopes for all of them. I haven't read any nonfiction in a while, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into these and sharing my thoughts as I get started. But since I'm going to start with The Man No One Believed, I'm going to go ahead and give you a synopsis. In 1985, a white man walked into a South Georgia church and brutally murdered Harold and Thelma Swan, 2 pillars of the area's Black community. The killer vanished into the night. For 15 years, the case remained unsolved. Then, authorities zeroed in on Dennis Perry, a carpenter who grew up nearby. Convicted with flawed evidence, Perry received a double life sentence. When award-winning journalist and South Georgia native Joshua Sharpe retraces the case, he discovers a winding path of corruption, devastating missteps, and secrets. Driven by the pursuit of the truth, Sharpe's investigation takes him through dusty courthouse archives, down winding dirt roads, and into intense interviews. But he keeps knocking on doors, even after they're slammed in his face. Sharpe uncovers explosive evidence that helps prove that Dennis Perry is innocent. And he confronts a long-ignored suspect, an alleged white supremacist who has bragged about committing the murders. But the fight for the truth is not easily won. When a key figure in the investigation turns up dead under suspicious circumstances, Sharpe's sources and editors insist that he could be in danger. Even as evidence mounts of Perry's innocence, local officials work to keep him in prison until Sharpe's reporting forces the state to launch a new investigation. 35 years after the Swans' murders. Driven by Sharpe's tireless reporting, The Man No One Believed tells the unbelievable story of one of the most confounding cases in Georgia history, the extraordinary fight to free an innocent man, and how state officials worked against the odds to deliver justice for the Swans. Both a riveting true crime story and a searing indictment of American injustice, The Man No One Believed is a gripping work of literary journalism, a moving examination of how we reckon with the sense of our past. So, yes, very interested in this, and it is short, so I'm hoping I can read through it quickly and then share all of my thoughts. The last thing I want to tell you before we get started is it does have a table of contents, and it breaks down the different parts in the chapters. And there's obviously acknowledgments and notes on sources and an index, but a note on the dialogue in the book, like how it's actually printed, which if you're listening to this on audio, you may not pick up on that. So I do want to say that it might be better to flip through a physical copy of the book while you're listening to it on audio from time to time. So the dialogue written in italics is recalled by people who were involved in the conversations. When dialogue is in quotation marks, the words are taken directly from transcripts, recordings, or official documents, or were heard and recorded by the author while reporting. I realized before I got started reading that I needed to update you about what I read yesterday. So yesterday I read up to page 40, and it basically just, the murders happen, and then how the journalists got on board, and a little bit about South Georgia during that time. And I'm hoping that it's gonna, you know, pick up from here. So sad. And yeah, obviously the person that really did this needs to be behind bars, not just some random dude because they were being lazy or not following through and things like that. So I'm gonna dive back in now, and I'll catch you guys later with more updates. I made it to page 93 this morning while I was folding laundry. I am the worst at folding laundry, but I just let it pile up, and then I have a big laundry mountain, and then I just fold it all. But anyway, I made it to page 93, chapter 12, and I feel like we're investigating the case, but we're also not investigating the case. I feel like I have read other true crime books, and this one feels different as in the format. They're really telling you what's going on in the area at that time with different elections, different mayors, different different levels of the police force, and getting to know the neighbors and the people. And I'm like, are we actually solving the case, or is this a love letter to South Georgia during that time period? I'm having a hard time connecting with it for that reason, because obviously I went into it to figure out, okay, who really killed these people. There are touches of like, this was on that show, what's it called? Unsolved Mysteries, like the Cold Cases Unsolved Mystery show. This killing was actually like on that show. And they were hoping it would bring in like some new tips and stuff. And there have been like tips called in, and it feels like, you know, like if you do an artist sketch of someone and how they did it then, I don't think that's how they do it now. They basically had all of these like face parts, and then the two ladies that saw the person that killed the guy laid all these face parts down on a table, like talked about his hair color, his eye color and stuff, but like put down like if he had a mustache or something like that. And then the artist person came in and used those and combined both of those into like one sketch. But it seemed like they started changing the sketch as people would like call in with tips and stuff. It was almost like they were trying to pin it on one person, but like make the sketch fit the person rather than the person fitting the sketch. I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing. And I mean, obviously this really happened, and this is how it got so muddled. And that's why a guy that was innocent was in jail for so long. But also just the amount of people bragging that they did this, sickening, absolutely sickening, and just a total waste of time. Like if someone said they committed it, I would just throw them in jail just because. Like, I just don't understand. It's not going great, I would say, just because like I feel like it's kind of all over the place, and we're not really focusing on like the actual investigation. But there's so much backstory to the characters and stuff like that. So they're talking about like the drug trade. They're talking about what's happening in the jails and who's being elected. I'm not super enjoying it, if we're being honest. It's like, okay, you know, but I'm gonna keep reading. I'm hoping to finish this one today. So I will come back once I have finished it with my final thoughts, because I really don't have anything. I mean, unless something crazy happens and I want to check in with you, but it's a short one. You know, I don't have much left. Unsolved Mysteries aired in 1988. So that's when it was on. And then there's people that are saying like they're positive. There's this one guy they called in to start going around talking to people, and one of the ladies, Fisher, ended up fainting the night of, but this guy is going to talk to her. Cora Bundy finally said, "Do you think you know who killed Harold and Thelma Swan?" "I don't think anything," she said. "I know who killed Harold and Thelma Swan." Fisher said she'd known for a decade who did it, but was afraid to come forward. Shortly after Unsolved Mysteries aired in 1988, a white woman she didn't know came to Fisher's house with a photograph of a man. When Fisher saw that picture, the flash of recognition nearly caused her to faint. She told Bundy the man in the photo was the killer. "I'm positive." See, that's the thing. If I know who killed someone, I think I would definitely step forward, right? Like, why would you hold that back for a decade? Because then you just know they're out there. I don't know, was she scared for her life? Like, what's the deal? Fisher wouldn't say. She was too scared. She'd seen him, she explained, at least 3 times in the years after the murders. He parked near her home and just stared. It seemed he wanted her to know he was watching, that he was gonna wait to kill her the moment she opened her mouth about him to the police. Fisher refused to say his name or the name of the white woman who showed her the photo. All she would tell Bundy was that the killer's grandfather lived on Dover Bluff Road, not far from the church, and that the white woman lived in a mobile home on the highway next to Rising Daughter Baptist. So I would immediately go there and I'll ask all of those people. But let's see if that's where the book leads. I finished The Man No One Believed. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm really glad that we found the right person and got the right guy behind bars eventually. I feel so bad for Dennis Perry and his family that he was in jail for 20 plus years when he was innocent. And I mean, that's just wild. I mean, he's not the only person it's happened to, so I get it. And I'm glad they did eventually find the guy. The case was crazy, but the thing is that the way the story was written, I didn't really like. It wasn't until like the 3rd part that like it really picks up, and the guy writing the book, Joshua Sharpe, gets involved. Once he gets involved, it moves very quickly, but obviously everybody that came before him had a lot of the evidence, a lot of interviews. He knew who to talk to, where to go, and all of that, because a lot of the groundwork was already laid for him. But like I said, it really just sets up the whole town and everyone involved and just like everything. And it's also crazy that from the very beginning, the guy that really ended up doing it had confessed to it. A witness came forward and told the police. They were trying to get his alibi, and it was the alibi that screwed up the entire case. It's crazy to know how, like, the police force and investigations and stuff happened as early as like the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s to now. Like, it's just crazy. Like, there was no DNA evidence. There was no paper trace of, like, you know, internet and like all of these things that we have now. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to think how they could have had him so early on, had DNA been a thing, and had they listened to the eyewitness, which they did, and they called for an alibi, but it was a fake alibi. So, wow. But I didn't really like the way the story was told, so I'm going to be putting my rating versus that. But there is a website that you can go to that can basically kind of tell you the story if you don't want to, you know, spend the money on the book. Also, in the back, there is a lot of source information. And it says the reporting for this book included reading nearly 15,000 pages of police and court records, conducting interviews with over 100 people, listening to the 24-hour plus undisclosed season on Dennis Perry's case, searching for old records in back rooms at various courthouses, reviewing hundreds of newspaper articles and various videos, making many public record requests, and much more. And then it breaks it down each like chapter, like the prologue and part 1, chapter 2, like kind of just everything. It gives you all of the details that you can like really dive in and see where he got the information from. So I love that. I'm sure that almost took more time than writing this book. And that's where, and then there's even an index if you want to look up like certain people and stuff like that, or certain aspects of the case, like Camden County. It even has like attractions, Black community, double homicide, drug smuggling, employment patterns. Like it has like everything broken down for you. So if you're interested in that case, I would definitely like maybe give this a go. But as just like someone that doesn't have any ties to this case, had never heard of this case till now, because obviously this happened back when I was like a kid and I didn't live in that area, so I didn't know about any of this. It was interesting to hear about the case, but the way it was written I didn't like. So that's that on that. First book down. I will check in with you later when I decide what I'm going to pick up next. Okay, the next book I'm going to pick up is A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. This is for my Patreon book club, and I'm also doing reading sprints with my patrons tonight. So I figured it would be like a good way to start the book and like read the book on the sprints so I can talk to them about it a little bit early. Obviously, nonfiction. Back in America, after 20 years in Britain, Bill Bryson decided to reacquaint himself with his native country by walking the 2,100-mile Appalachian Trail, which stretches from Georgia to Maine. The Appalachian Trail offers an astonishing landscape of silent forests and sparkling lakes. And to a writer with the comic genius of Bill Bryson, it also provides endless opportunities to witness the majestic silliness of his fellow human beings. For a start, there's the gloriously out-of-shape Kevin Katz, a buddy from Iowa along for the walk. But a walk in the woods is more than just a laugh-out-loud hike. Bryson's acute eye is a wise witness to this beautiful but fragile trail, and as he tells its fascinating history, he makes a moving plea for the conservation of America's last great wilderness. An adventure, a comedy, and a celebration, A Walk in the Woods is a modern classic of travel literature. And I am so stoked to read this because the Appalachian Trail is very near and dear to my heart. I would love to hike portions of the Appalachian Trail one day. I'm never going to be a through hiker, but I admire people that do. I follow a lot of them through the seasons that they hike, and yeah, I'm just really excited about this one. Also, I got this off of Pango Books, and it did come signed. It is personalized to someone named Eileen. Happy trails, Bill Bryson! Are you kidding me? Like, ah! I'm so excited. He has a heavy hand because like it even like came up on the next page. Like this is like bumpy on the back. But anyway, it does have a map and some of the notable places along the trail marked. And Let's see. It has a little disclaimer that says like some of the names and identifying features have been changed. It has like chapter 1, it has like this little tree down here. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'll read you the first line. Not long after I moved with my family to a small town in New Hampshire, I happened upon a path that vanished into a wood on the edge of town. And that just sets the vibe. Because when I lived in Abingdon, Virginia, there was an entrance to the Appalachian Trail there. And I know where Jessie from Reading with Jess, near where she lives, there's an entrance, a very popular spot for the Appalachian Trail. And like I said, I have followed through hikers for several years, like on YouTube. And yeah, it's just very exciting stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. But I'm gonna take a break from reading since I read the majority of that other book today. And I wanna play some Dreamlight Valley, and then I will jump into this a little bit later. Daniel had to go run some errands, and then when he gets back, we're actually gonna go vote, and then I'll probably maybe jump back into this, or start this, I should say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Terrible angle, but I'm 21% of the way through A Walk in the Woods, and I'm really enjoying it. There was a little bit of setup before he got to the trail. This old friend that he's traveled with before, like, reached out and said that he would go with him. Both of these men are out of shape and packed way too much. Like, you can tell that he didn't do a lot of research. Also, I'm not sure if there was a lot of research available at the time that he did this, but like, no one would be making some of the same mistakes that they did, bringing all that food, having to ditch it all. But I like the camaraderie and the banter between Bill and his friend, Steven. And I just can't wait to see how their time on the trail changes them. They've run into other hikers, and it's very interesting. I know a lot about the Appalachian Trail, so a lot of this stuff is familiar, or I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. But there's some stuff in here about the history and who built the trail and stuff like that that I really didn't know. So I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I'm getting ready for reading sprints with my patrons, and I'm expecting to knock a big portion of this out. I'm already on chapter 5, page 58, and we're going to probably do 2 hours worth of sprints. So I will get a lot of reading done. So if I don't finish it, I'll come back with a reading update. If not, then you'll just hear my final thoughts. I just wrapped up reading sprints. I made it to page 173, and I wish it was more about his time on the actual trail and meeting people on the trail. I think he's very cynical, but I also think it's a very informative book. It's a mixture between his time on the trail with his friend and some science and some history. But I don't think it really is too much science or too much history, because it kind of bounces around between those three things. It feels like it's a good mix. Anyway, I read a very large portion today. I'm hoping to finish this up tomorrow, but I'll check in with you tomorrow. Good morning. This morning I did my morning devotionals, and then I jumped back into A Walk in the Woods, and I finished it up this morning. I'm rating the story 3 stars. This one was quite different than Wild by Cheryl Strayed, and I actually preferred Wild by Cheryl Strayed a bit more than this one. I don't know if it's because like female versus male, or this one was just like, hers was more of her time on the trail. This one was more of like a history lesson, a science lesson, mixed in with little bits of his time on the trail. He didn't hike nearly as much as Cheryl Strayed did. But him and his friend Steven set off on the Appalachian Trail, and they did very little of it. Well, I mean, a lot compared to a lot of people, but he does talk about how much he ended up walking at the end. I don't want to spoil it for you if you want to read it, but it starts in the beginning, the preparation, and they get to the trail, and somehow they're still unprepared. and also not committed to like really walking the trail and like going through the hard parts. It's almost like, I think he lost the plot. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, the trail is hard. It's not easy. It's through rugged backcountry. You know what I'm saying? There's no conveniences out there. And it's like, he knew that, but he also like, it felt like he didn't know that. There were lots of things mentioned about the trail that like I was familiar with. But then he didn't really seem to like, I don't know, like it's like he didn't have a spiritual experience from the trail. And I don't think he learned like too much more than he didn't already know. Like, he is an author, and even though this is like his memoir of his time doing this, it's like, I almost feel like he did it as like, I guess it was like an experiment almost. Like, what's the Appalachian Trail like? Like, let me go investigate. And there were like funny things, but also the humor was like a little bit off. There were some sexist, you know, I mean, this is dated, you know, it is dated. It's, what did I say? 98. So, there were some things like they would come across people on the trail, not that many, but they would occasionally come across people, and it was like they almost just didn't want to interact. There was this one girl that they kept trying to like get away from, and then they felt guilty about it, and then she ended up leaving the trail. And I don't know, there were just like little snippets from the trails, but it was mostly about like the history of the towns and lessons on the different trees and the animal species and how the trail came to be, like the history of the trail, the geology, all of that stuff. I would say it's more about that. I would say it's probably 80% that and 20% actually like hiking and going through the experience of the trail. So it wasn't like my personal like favorite experience, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, and I did learn a lot, even though I'm sure like all the numbers and the things about the species and, you know, all that stuff is different. But there's some stuff in here is like from history that like isn't gonna change, you know. Interesting, much different than I was anticipating, but 3 stars for this one, and I will be talking more about it with my book club at the end of the month. And then we have The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. This is our 3rd and final book for the vlog. I'm really looking forward to this one because it obviously came out this year, and a lot of people have been talking about it. Did it come out last year? I thought it came out this year, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, it says, 2 simple words will change how you think about your entire life. If you're struggling to achieve your goals or feel a little happier, the problem isn't you. The problem is the power you give to other people. In this book, you'll learn how 2 words, let them, can set you free. Free from the opinions, drama, and judgment of others. Free from the exhausting cycle of trying to manage everything and everyone around you. There is a better way to live. The Let Them Theory is a proven method that teaches you how to protect your time and energy and focus on what matters to you. You've spent too long chasing approval, managing other people's happiness, and letting their opinions hold you back. Learn how to stop giving your power away and start creating a life where you come first, your dreams, your goals, your happiness. Let Them is a simple tool that millions of people around the world can't stop talking about because it works. The fastest way to take control of your life is to stop trying to control other people and focus on what you can control, yourself. by letting other people live their lives, you finally get to live yours. So I'm looking forward to this one. I wanted to give an update on the let them theory. I'm about 30% through the book. And I have the physical copy because I thought this was something I was going to want to highlight, take notes, all of that. But I find myself primarily listening to it on audio because the author Mel Robbins actually narrates it. And the audiobook narration is more conversational, whereas the book is like bullet points, paragraph titles, you know, things like that. So just to flip you through, like all of these like little things, all of this, you know, all of that. She did discuss the tattoos, and then she also did discuss this seesaw illustration, but it was much better seeing it in person. There it is. So those things are really nice to have the book for, but I find that maybe it's a little out of order in the audiobook, or she'll add on a little like finesse, as if you were like speaking to someone rather than like they're reading it, you know. It's like she's sitting down having a conversation with you about this theory. And yes, you can follow along in the book, but I'm just finding the audiobook experience fine. Like, I don't need the physical to follow along with, but yeah, it's going good. I'm not necessarily like mind blown by anything that I'm reading. And I think that's because I think I've already started making the changes that this book is talking about before reading the book, surprisingly. Like, I have no control over anybody except for myself, and what they do is their problem, and how I approach the situation is me. Like, I can control nobody except for myself, and that's the basis of the let them theory. So I am enjoying it. I do think it will be powerful for a lot of people. I don't know if I would recommend the audiobook or the physical copy. I'm kind of just flipping back and forth between the two, but like I am 30% through. I'm on page 99. Yeah. I finished The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and I really enjoyed this book. Now, I will say I planned on hybrid reading the book, but as I was doing that, I was noticing a lot of inconsistencies with the lineup of the text and the audio. Because Mel Robbins is a really good speaker, and also she has like her own podcast, and she's kind of like motivational in a way, I found myself much preferring to listen to it and follow along as best as I could in the book itself. It's more conversational. It's more like she's sitting down on your couch talking to you through these different topics by listening to it. But there are a few illustrations in here that might help you understand a concept more. Not many, but some, like this one, the ABC loop, or there's the one at the beginning about like the seesaws. I think I showed that to you before. But there's a few in here, and also if you just want to go back like if you're having trouble with friendships, you can go to the friendship chapter. If you're having trouble with comparison, you can go to the comparison chapter. So it is nice to have the physical copy of the book rather than just having to like scroll through and find like what you're looking for in the audiobook. But I liked the audiobook experience a lot. I'm gonna rate it 4 stars because it's just one of those books. Like, it's not gonna like touch me deeply. I don't think this is gonna change my life. It might change certain aspects of it, and it definitely gave me some ideas of how to tackle things. I also like that she reached out to like researchers and doctors and psychiatrists and like other people in the field that could like help her pull from the science of why certain things happen and why like her theory could help. But it's not just the let them theory. It's also the let me theory. So it's the let them do what they're gonna do and let me control my reactions to it. So there's lots of good information in here. And I think this would be a very powerful book for people in their 20s and their 30s. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it 4 stars. But to rewind it back, I am giving The Man No One Believed, The Untold Story of the Georgia Church Murders by Joshua Sharpe anywhere between 2 and 3 stars. I did enjoy the story. I did like learning about the case since it's something that happened when I was like a kid in Georgia, which is only a state over from where I lived in South Carolina. But I just didn't like the way that it was told. We didn't really get, it was a lot more like history of Georgia than I wanted it to be. And I feel like when Joshua Sharpe finally came on board, so much of the foundation work had been laid that he didn't have to do like that much work, but he still did a lot of work, don't get me wrong. So I thought it was okay. It's short, so that's a good thing. And then I read A Walk in the Woods, Rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail by Bill Bryson. And I'm giving this 3 stars. And had it been a little less ecological history focused and it would have just been like on the trail with him and Stephen, I think I would have liked it even more. It possibly could have been 4 stars, but I think it really does go between the 3 different things, you know, science, history, on the trail, science, history, on the trail. But if that's your thing, then I would definitely pick this one up. I know it's like a modern classic, but for now, I think I'm sticking with 3 stars. And then of course the let them theory, which I just rated 4 stars. So let me know if you have read any of these books or if you have any nonfiction recommendations for me down in the comments. But I hope you're all having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye, friends.